Hey y'all, we are back with another segment of the African Millennials, and we have some more questions to answer, guys. Are y'all ready?
Ready?
Yeah,
Let's
go.
All right.
Sure.
Let's answer another question. Okay, so this question says, Dear AMs, do you as Africans perceive African Americans as beneath you? If so, why?
Not at all. Not at all. I think that's just a stereotype amongst, I would say, the older Africans, because they feel like it all started from the fact that when Africans, I'm gonna speak on Nigerians, when Nigerians came to America, they viewed African Americans as like unruly, wild, like no type of moralities or anything of the kind. And they also looked at them as like, oh, like, but y'all African though, y'all African, but why y'all acting like this? Not knowing that, they were like forced to be here and everything was stripped away from them, from their land, their homes, they were stripped away from that. So it's just a whole kind of like clash between the two, and also the whole thing with African Americans feeling like Africans weren't really all that to begin with in the first place. So there's really that strong disconnect. But
sorry to cut you off, Regis.
No, go.
I think that although we, the younger generation, may not feel like African Americans are beneath us, it's like, I think that, there's like this stigma, right? Mm-hmm. It's like Black Americans or African Americans that went to school here, if they were Black or if they made fun of like the Africans that had the accents, right? Mm-hmm. And it just continued and continued and continued. I don't think that African Americans are beneath Africans, but I do think that still to this day, there are Africans that don't like Black Americans or African Americans because they feel like they're privileged and everything was handed to them and it's easier for them. Because when you go to Ghana or Nigeria or a lot of other countries in West Africa, they look at Americans like, you spoil, so give to me, like give me, like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think I think maybe like it's still present though. Like it's still very much so present that Africans feel like they're better than Black Americans or African Americans.
But it's vice versa too. My fault, man. I think it's vice versa because they feel like African Americans, some will tell you that, they feel like we're privileged because we know where we're from. We have a place we could call our home, and they don't have that. They would say to you, oh, okay, but you think we're privileged, but look at the way we live in. Look at our living conditions.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Even though some of them may be going through like Section 8, living in the projects, whatever, this, that, and the third, they feel like, nah, like y'all got it better. Like some of them will look you in your face and be like, you got it better.
I mean, that's true because we're in a time where now everybody cares so much about doing like the DNA testing and finding out their roots, and they want to know so bad where they're from. And I think that they do feel that void where, okay, I don't know my ancestors, I don't know my culture, where I'm from. I get it, but it's like, it's changing. I think we're like in a transitional phase because there's still people that don't like
I mean, to answer that question is pretty simple. I mean, there's no human being or race that is beneath another, excuse me, first of all. And I think the difference between African Americans and Africans is a different of culture. There's a culture shock because even in families, I think African parents are more conservative than African Americans, and even the way that we perceive things, or, probably for instance about homosexuality is more accepted, in the African American community than here. So I would say no one is beneath. I mean, African Americans are not beneath Africans, but it's just a difference of culture. That's what I have to say. I mean, it's not just that just because Black Americans been enslaved 400 years here means that, or make them has low or has less value than Africans. We are all the same, and that's what I have to say about that.
But Africans have a level of pride in their culture too. Like
that's pride. That's pride.
Like I said, I'm only speaking for Nigeria because I can't speak for other African culture. But I would say, for example, like I'm Yoruba, and like Yoruba people, like they're very proud in their culture. Like they're very, even the whole title, respect, all of that is that plays a big part into our culture. So when they're coming to America where, sometimes some of these, young African American kids may not have, they're witnessing African American kids not have respect for each other or their elders, they feel like, it's easy for them to move in a way like, yo, y'all beneath, like, you know what I'm saying? It's easy to feel that way. I could see why somebody would feel that way, because it's like, we have all this culture, we know where we come from, we have morals, blah, this, that, and the third. And then you look at, you're looking at one group of people who are your group of people, but they're just like completely disconnected, but it's not their fault.
I think even it has changed a little bit, where I think African Americans were the people who kind of bullied Africans.
No, you're definitely right.
They didn't just bully African, because I wasn't born in Africa. I was born in Haiti. When I came here, I was bullied by Africans too. They bullied immigrants, period. It's not just Africans.
Yeah.
If you were an immigrant, you didn't speak English, you were being bullied. So don't make it just about African. They were not just bullying you. I'm gonna just say this. I do feel like there are a lot of Africans out there who feel like they are better than African American. But I feel like as African American, you cannot let that stop you from learning about where you're from, because you didn't choose to come here and not learn about your culture. So if you want to learn about what tribe you're from in Africa, you should take it up on yourself to learn about it and actually go there if you want to learn more. You shouldn't let that stop you from learning where your real ancestors are from. That's how I feel. And I also feel like there are some African American who do make fun of Africans or immigrants. I remember one time my aunt and I we went to get some turkey at some church uptown, because she lives in uptown, and she was wearing like an African dress, some sort of clothing, and we were speaking in Creole. And this woman said to us, "Go back to Africa, wherever you came from." And she was an African American woman. So because we were speaking in a different language, and she had a African dress on, she automatically assumed that she was African, and she told us to go back to our country. And that was like 6 years ago, not even today, because being African, I guess, was not a thing. So I guess she felt like it was appropriate to say it.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me, when I first came here in the United States in 2013. I remember when we took a cab. So with my mother, we were talking, and he said, because he thought that you didn't speak English, so he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm in this cab now with those effing Africans." I was like,
he was black?
What? He was black. He was black.
He said that? What?
He said that. I was shocked.
And you didn't say anything?
No, I was like, no, yeah, I was young. Yeah, I was.
Speaking to your point, Regis, I've experienced that myself. Like I went to predominantly Spanish high school, so I wasn't bullied, but I definitely got a lot of like the side comments. I got a lot of the African booty scratcher comments. I got a lot of that. And even like when my mother would come pick me up from school, it's like her accent was so strong, and like people would, make fun of that. Like, "Oh, y'all mad African," or, whatever. And at that time, it definitely created this divide for me. Like why, like I didn't like Black Americans like that. I'm like, well, I don't like, you know what I'm saying? Y'all always making fun of me. Y'all think y'all better than me. So I'm not going to like you because I feel like they think that they're better than me. I mean, now as an adult, I've grown from that. I have more understanding. So I get it and I understand the times. But at the time, I felt like I'm better than y'all. Y'all think y'all better than me and you're not. Like the foods that we eat, I felt was better. I felt like it was better that I was cultured. I felt like we have tradition. We still have our tribes. We still have this. I felt like we better than y'all, and I'm like, you on food stamps. I'm like, in Ghana, we gotta work. No, seriously, I used to be like that. I used to be like, you on food stamps. I'm like, there's no such thing as food stamps in Ghana. If you don't got a job, you're not gonna eat. We not
It's
lazy.
an American thing, though.
Like,
Nobody else have food stamp but America.
But you gotta understand, like, people who ask that question, especially African Americans, because I see it a lot today, where they like, "Oh, why y'all feel like this, that, and the third? Y'all been privileged to know where y'all from." I was like, you gotta remember, back to what you said, dating back to the history, y'all didn't want to fuck with us. Like, you feel me? When we came through, y'all ain't want to fuck with us. So, like, even
maybe like go back to Africa.
Exactly.
That was their favorite line.
I was born here, but I went to a predominantly black school, both middle school, elementary, and high school. And they would still say things like, "Oh, they'll still come for me, and I have to roast their ass back." So it was like a back and forth thing or whatever. So it was just like they would say some ruthless, crazy things.
But you know what though? That has a lot to do with propaganda, because
that's
during the time that we were in high school, that's when there were all these commercials
about
hungry
feeding
kids.
They never die.
10 cents a day could feed a kid.
And people would like look at us like they would think that because we African, like they would believe what they see on TV, right? And it would show, even though this camera only went to one small little village and showed all this poverty, it makes the Americans think that, oh, this is what it's like in Africa. And that's why they ask us stupid questions like, oh, don't y'all live in huts? Don't y'all walk around with elephants and lions and stuff like that? That's where all of that that, you know, ignorance comes from. It's from people just believing what they see on TV, and they think that that's the entire continent, not knowing that our continent is one of the richest continents. You know what I'm saying? But of course, they're not going to put the good on TV. They want sympathy. They want money. These companies want money. And that's what created that divide. It's like seeing like, oh, well, y'all poor and y'all have big bellies and flies on your face. No, seriously. No, and they look at you like that's where you come from, and that's why they feel like they're better. But we look at them like we actually work hard. While you're on government assistance, that doesn't exist. If we don't work, we don't eat. Period.
Right. And that's why there's like, that's why Africans feel like Black American are lazy, because they see that on television, that, you know, they gangsters, they live on food stamps and all that. And just like you were saying, UNICEF put videos like that. Even when I came here, I got the same exact experience, because they're like, oh yeah, you from a third world country, because they always showing Haitians like this and that. And even kids that were from Dominican Republic is talking crazy to me, and I'm like, yo, you like right next door to me. You literally going through the same exact thing that I'm going through, but you feel like it's necessary for you to look down on me because you saw things on television.
I think that's why you have to educate people. I mean, stereotypes is derived from the truth, but the problem is that it's to educate people.
Who said that?
It is. Okay, so there's
a percentage of the truth. A percentage of the truth, though.
But it's still the truth, right?
I don't believe that.
What?
You know why? You know why? No, you know why? Because you still have Africans who still doesn't have, you know, clean water and things of that
sort. But that's not just in Africa.
And that's what I'm.
In Asia too.
Let me finish. What I'm trying to say is that it is a reality. But what we have to do now is to tell that Africa is not just that. Okay, and we have everything now with, you know, Nigerians who actually represented the continent like big time right now.
Their country.
Exactly.
Not their continent.
Really? You want to go there?
You mean the capital of Africa?
Oh, come on, man.
Continue.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that we have to educate people, not just Americans, but the world, that Africa is not just about, you know, what we see on television. We have a lot of culture, a lot of things to show to the world, and we have to showcase that in order to.
But we can't spend our time educating people. Like, you just have to check people in a nice way, because, like, no, for real,
basically
like,
educate them,
right? No, not like, I'm not about to sit up here giving you a whole history of Africa. If you want to know about Africa, you need to take that upon yourself to do the research. Because like 3 years ago, this Mexican girl was like, so are you guys really like poor in Haiti like that? Because I see a lot of things on TV, and I'm like, this is 2015. I need to educate you about Haiti? Come on.
But wait, don't get mad. I mean, don't get mad at her because let me tell you why. She asked the question. She didn't assume. She didn't just be like, yo, but Haiti's poor.
No, I feel like it was a slick comment. The way she said it was a slick comment.
I mean, it's easy to perceive it that way. Like, I used to get mad at dumb questions too.
I used to take
in 2015, social media was already out. So I'm saying, like, if there was no social media, you wouldn't be able to see what the world looks like.
But some people don't go by social media.
People are really so ignorant.
Yeah, we all have stereotypes.
And then, let me tell you something. As a knowledgeable person, you are responsible for the people who are ignorant, because you have to pass it forward. Just like how your parents are knowledgeable in certain things, it'll be messed up for them to know certain things and see you go through and won't say nothing. So you have to spread that knowledge and be like, listen, this is not what it is. That's why I say I prefer them to ask me a question than to just assume. Like,
you don't have to go out your way to educate these people, but when it sits on your plate, address it. Like,
yeah, I'm gonna address it in like real quick, but I'm not about to sit up here and give you a whole history, because it's like, you're from Mexico. There's plenty of poor people in Mexico too. So why are you over here coming for me? That's from Haiti, and we're in 2015. There's social media. You can see things. Don't tell me. To me, that was just an ignorant comment. So guys, what message do you guys have for African Americans that feel like they are beneath us, Africans?
Okay, I don't think that, African Americans should feel as though Africans look at them like they're beneath them. It may not be that. They have to understand that we're still dealing with culture shocks. You know, like, this particular African that you may have came in contact with may have just came from Africa not too long ago. They may have assumptions. You shouldn't take offense to things. Just like we could take offense to, you know, being called certain names, we just have to educate each other on it. So rather than being defensive about it, if you educate people and say, okay, well, you know, I'm African American, I don't know where I'm from, but I would like to learn. Africans will be open and willing to say, okay, well, this is how we do it. These are the foods that we eat. I don't think that there has to be this divide, or you have to feel intimidated, you know, by Africans and feel like, oh, they think I'm not going to associate myself with them or talk to them because they think they're better than me. Don't think that. Ask questions and, you know, just be honest about the fact that you want to learn more about the culture and be genuine about it.
Awesome. That's good advice.
Facts.
Yes. I agree. So thank you for tuning in. And remember, guys, don't forget to send us your question because we'll be answering them. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for watching. And if you liked this episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you next time.